So before we start with the topic for tonight, I'd like to invite you to have a very special meditation. And I thought about I'm sure you must have heard of the little boy who is missing in Hansik. And we know that, every mother will be terrified, or every father, to lose their child, and we know that this is a human situation which really affects a lot of people, and the parents and the family in particular. So I thought that since we are together and we are very nearby, maybe we can, and also those who are online can join, that we can maybe dedicate this meditation in the next minutes to help with the mind, and use our mind to create thoughts that maybe will help, so that someone will have the right thought or see the right thing and do the right thing, so that the little boy can be found. So I'll just share a few thoughts with you, and it's a meditation that can be like a visualization. So we just go into the silence of the mind, the silence of the soul, feeling that our thoughts will become very pure, very beautiful thoughts, but also very powerful thoughts. And with the power of the mind, we can travel. We can imagine being in a different area, a different location in the city. And so we let the mind move, and we imagine we are in the northern part of the city by the river. And I know it's a residential area with main streets, with parks, different neighborhoods. And it's just as if we are a little bit like flying, seeing from up above the trees, the snow, the cold. It is cold. And we see ourselves as beings of light, angels of light. And we're all together. And it's not that we feel sadness or pain or anything, but we feel deep compassion, deep love. And we nurture the mind with the light of hope. And we know that this little boy is also a soul. And so we can send to that soul rays of light, rays of might, just as if we are above, angels of light, angels of might, angels of love. And we spread light and might and love in all the streets. We give might to the trees so that the trees can talk. We give might to the air so that he can hear through the air the thoughts of love. And as if we are watching from above, sending beautiful waves of hope and courage. We also feel like angels giving light and might to the parents, the family. And with the beauty of our minds, the purity of our hearts, we create such a vibration that we invoke righteousness, special touching that will allow the right person to see and hear or say the right thing at the right time. We invoke signals, sounds, so that the little boy can be found. And with the purity of our mind, we just create that beautiful vibration of peace. So that the sound of truth can be heard. We create vibrations of peace, so that hope can be restored. And we spread vibrations of peace so that strength and courage can be felt in the heart. And as angels of light and might and love, we spread light and might to reduce the pain and the sorrow. And we replace the pain and the sorrow with light and might and love. So there can be hope, there can be strength, there can be courage. So we can visualize the whole area, and we see ourselves going through the alleys, the back lanes, the streets, the park, the shore of the river. And we just spread beautiful waves. And we know that angels are never alone. They can invoke the power of the Supreme. So we connect with the Supreme Light, the Supreme Being. And just by absorbing the light from God, we can fill ourselves with even more light and might and hope and love. And we allow that light from up above to come all the way through all the different areas of that neighborhood. The trees are filled with that light. The streets always show the path. And we send signals to the minds and to the hearts of everyone. So that there can be righteousness, truth and purity. And we take the light from God and we just spread it all over. So, good evening, welcome. I know it's not the kind of dance we wanted to dance maybe to start with, but I thought it was quite nice to use the power of the mind to at least cooperate and send some good thoughts for what's happening just nearby, just a few minutes away from here. So, that's okay? You don't mind? Don't mind? Too late to ask, yeah? Yeah, but I think that what we do often when someone is not well, or sometimes in our organization we have some of our seniors who are in hospital or going through surgery, or some of our friends in other centers who also don't feel well. Sometimes we just sit a few minutes collectively and, connect and send good thoughts and powerful vibrations. We never know what the magic of the minds are, just we believe that the world is a kind of whole place of connections. It's just wires connecting to one another. So if we connect with peace and love, maybe someone else will pick up that thought and suddenly get the right thought as well. So tonight we'll go into part 2 of the dance of the mind. And I don't know, for anyone who was here last week, I don't know if you recall anything from what was shared last week, but the main focus, I think, for the first session was about understanding the necessity to train the mind, because the thought is that the mind will not become powerful just on its own like this. And that if we don't train the mind, it's very unlikely that the mind will change on its own. Or it might, but it might not be the way we want it to change. So the importance of really training the mind. And if we want to make the mind dance, if you want to make anyone dance, what do you need? Music, exactly. So what music do you need to play to make the mind dance? Rock and roll? Will that make the mind dance? That will make the body dance. The body will dance with rock and roll and any kind of music. But what kind of music will make the mind dance? New Age music? Yeah, New Age, literally, New World music, like thinking of a new age or a new world. What kind of music can make the mind dance? There's a beautiful image for those who know in Hinduism. They show Krishna with a flute. And the symbol of Hinduism a little bit is that Krishna playing the flute, and what happens? They say that when Krishna started playing the flute, yeah, it attracted people from far away. And everyone who would hear the sound of that flute will just feel enchanted, and they will just come and start dancing. They're called the gopes and the gopis. Not the goats, the gopes and the gopis. And there are those who are always intoxicated with the music of the flute. And it's a beautiful image that actually doesn't really connect with necessarily something that really happened physically, but we believe it's a symbology for the beauty of the flute of understanding, the flute of knowledge. And that flute represents not a physical sound, but the sound of truth. And they say that truth will make the mind dance. Falsehood will stuck the mind in blockages and obstacles and confusions, but truth will make the mind dance. When there's truth, the mind dances. So we like to think that the knowledge, and we'll define a little bit what is the knowledge. It's not scientific knowledge. It's not knowledge about worms and mosquitoes and butterflies. That knowledge will make the mind of scientists dance, or biologists dance. But the spiritual truth will make the soul dance, the mind in the soul dance. And so we say that what really the soul requires to really dance or to move in the right way is actually three things: knowledge, values, and powers. And that three very different energies or realities: truth or knowledge, virtues, or you would say like vibrations of beauty in a way, and powers, which is pure energy of strength. These are three things. So knowledge, which is truth; values, which is vibration of beauty; and powers, which is more like an energy of strength, current. We call it in Hindi, they call it sakash. It means current, like electrical power or nuclear power, something like that. So, do we have all three? How much knowledge do we have? Yeah? Knowledge. They are what the soul requires in order to really grow, to move, to dance. The soul consumes these things. A soul to be healthy, you can say for the soul to be healthy, it feeds on knowledge, values, and powers. And the crisis we're going through at the moment is what? There's there's no truth. There's confusion. There are many truths. People don't agree, they fight. And we don't know sometimes ourselves what is true, what is not true. Jokingly, we can say we're in the times of fake news. They call it like, I work in a department called information for the media, but sometimes we call it disinformation. People disinform by sometimes focusing on one negativity. You remove the truth about all the positivity around. You see? So it's like, but truth is understanding. There are different aspects of truth, but truth is really about understanding the reality. So truth, values, and powers. And what we're missing today is those three things. The souls are missing those things. And instead of truth, there's confusion, there is chaos, there is arguments, there is all kind of half-truth. Instead of values, we see a lot of vices, which are like negative values in a way, a lot of selfishness and greed and just that kind of seeking more money and more powers and cheating and lying and this kind of really, it's a lack of values. They're becoming negative values versus positive values. And instead of powers, what we find is there's a lot of weaknesses. There's no strength. There's no endurance. People can't even concentrate anymore for 10 minutes. They say on the internet, after 2 minutes, they don't even listen to you anymore. Or even after 30 seconds, they don't listen to you anymore. There's no strength in intellect, no strength in relationships. Relationships break. Everything is weak. That's why there's no strength, there's no continuity. If the foundation is weak, the building collapses. So everything people try to build doesn't last very long. It's very rare now, organizations or places you can see established in 1700 something. They all collapse. All the organizations or businesses have shut down. Toy R Us, is it? Like just barely made even 50 years and they're dying. So there's no strength. And we find that in spirituality, what really we're trying to increase is those three things: knowledge, values, and powers. And the mind is this ability of thinking, but that kind of thinking becomes very joyful, very light, very entertained when there is the sound of truth, the sound of knowledge. And so the process we practice in meditation or in Raja Yoga is learning skills, becoming students. And that's why the organization is called the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. And the word university was chosen ages ago because the feeling was that what we need is to learn, is to educate the self. And if there's no education, there isn't any transformation. If you look at today's problems in the world, for example, I'm looking at this time at the issue of, I don't know how you call it in English, is it radicalization? When you turn into being radical and extremist. And so we know there's a big issue in this world with some young people who are brainwashed, with certain ideologies, and they turn into terrorists. And they say, what's the answer to that? You just can't decide, okay, we're going to lock up all the children in basements and you don't let them out anymore. Can you do that? That doesn't sound like a good answer, right? So what they do is education. So there's now lots of people who are going to schools and they talk to the kids and they try to tell them, look, this is not a good idea. And then they explain what's happening, what's the reality, how to face the reality of the world in a positive way, not in a negative way. So it takes like campaigns of education. When there was a problem with some disease, there has to be education. With AIDS, what happened? There had to be, certain measures had to be taken, but mostly campaigns of, they call it sensibilization or education. People have to understand. And when there is that awareness, then suddenly there's a change in behavior. So in spiritual dimension, what are we educating the mind with? What is our education? What are we learning? And last week the question I was asking was, how much time do we give the mind to train itself, right? How much time do we sit or pay attention to during the week to tell the mind, okay, I have to exercise the mind? Anyone has been told one day by the doctor, you should walk a little bit more or you should exercise? Anyone has been told that? No, because you're probably doing it or you're healthy. But if you're not healthy, maybe that will be one day the prescription. People who have too much weight, they will be told you should walk a little bit more. You should do something, exercise, breathe, isn't it? And we know physically the body has to be trained, move a little bit. So in the same way, if God could come and say hello, he would probably say, hey, are you training your mind? Are you giving your mind a little bit of gym every once in a while? Are you putting your mind through some exercise so that your mind can stay fit? And it is really exercising the mind. And so education is actually the exercise of the mind. Try to remember one time when you read something in a book or even a novel or any book, or you read something or you heard something on television that what it's called enlightened you. Can you remember that? The time when you read something and you said, wow, that is so nice, I like it. You might even have taken notes or highlight it or put it in a fridge, and you probably will have share it with somebody else afterwards. And you would have said to someone, oh, do you know what I read yesterday? Something so interesting. I'm sure you had that feeling. What is that feeling called? Intoxication. It's just a thought. Many other people would read the same sentence, but they will not get high about it. And you read that sentence and you get high about it. And you say, oh, I like it. And then you make sure you remember it. It's called education. It's just a thought or a sentence, but it picks your mind and it makes your mind, suddenly vibrate. And you like it. And you say, that was great. That's education, spiritual education. And how much do we expose ourselves so that we create that intoxication in a positive way, right? Like, I'm not promoting here drugs and influence, yeah. But ivresse is a sweet word. Intoxication in a sense like it's euphoria a little bit, joy. It has to be connected to joy, because when people are a bit intoxicated, they say they think they're the king of the world, and they don't have money, but they think they're very rich. So they just, they dance, If you see someone who has drank, they dance naturally, So, not that we promote that at all, but in French it's a beautiful word, enivré. It's like, it has a poetic sense. In English I find it's just chemical. But in French, enivré is like, it has a poesy, it has a poetry to it. But the point is that, think of the impact of events. How many times have you seen a movie that moved you to tears? Have you seen movies that move you to tears? In a beautiful way. Oh, it's so beautiful. You're touched and you feel, that is so beautiful. Love stories, they're just so beautiful. And what do you feel afterwards? Oh, I wish, just like you're inspired. And for a moment, it's just stimulating. So truth and understanding, knowledge, can produce a sort of happiness in the mind, which is unique. Once you understand something about yourself, about the world, I can only share. One day I was in a kind of retreat, I think. Yeah, it was a retreat in USA, and we enjoyed the classes from one of our seniors, Sister Mohini. And so when I knew it was going to be the class, I went to sit right in the front. And I was waiting, my notebook, everything. I was, okay, I'm looking forward to the class, it would be nice. So it's a big group, and then suddenly someone comes in the front and says, sorry, Sister Mohini is not feeling well, so she's not going to come. So I'm going to give you a little workshop, and I'm going to present you a PowerPoint. And at that time I had kind of allergy to PowerPoints. I just didn't like PowerPoints, like to me it was like, oh, boring, this is really boring. I'm a television, movie, Hollywood fanatic. So PowerPoint is like really, kind of archaic way of showing things, and I don't like PowerPoints. And so I thought, but I'm stuck now, because a person knows me, and I'm right there, and it doesn't look good if she said, I'm going to give you a PowerPoint. I say, oh, and I stand up and I leave. It would be rude, right? So I'm stuck there, and I say, well, I'll have to listen to the PowerPoint. And I was not very positive, to be honest. I was more like looking for an escape, how long I have to wait before I pretend I'm going to pee and I never come back, or I was just trying to, get out of there. And she started with the PowerPoint about the mind and this and the other. And it was kind of basic thoughts on the top of that. So I thought, oh my goodness. And suddenly she came up with this idea that, negative thoughts, we know what a negative thought is. But what about the power of thoughts such as, I don't like this? And she was challenging us suddenly, and there was a PowerPoint about, I don't like, and the little man saying, I don't like. And she said, that every time you have that thought, I don't like, you're actually increasing the chances for you to be exposed to that particular thing that you don't like. I said, what? And suddenly it just kind of hit me like a rocket, and I realized that in the drawers of my minds, in the drawers of my mind, I had zillion of thoughts that start with, I don't like. And I never thought that these thoughts were kind of negative. And if you say, I don't like people who lie, it sounds good, no? But what you're actually doing is increasing your sensitivity to lies, isn't it? So which means that next time somebody lies, it's going to make you more upset. So what we're creating by having those thoughts is actually a higher sensitivity to what we don't like. So next time we even like it less. And so we're more affected by what we like. And anyway, she went on like this, something like that, and it just hit me to such a big way that, you know, I used to realize there's so many things I used to say I don't like. I don't like having too many emails. I don't like when people are late. I don't like when this is happening. And I realized, whoa, this is a new dimension. I never identified I don't like as something that might be next on my agenda of things to change. Honestly, it was quite a very big, and I suddenly realized that was the best PowerPoint I ever saw in my life. And I thought, thank you. And I realized what an interesting situation that I'm trying to escape this thing, which actually became a moment which I'm still talking about probably 10 years later.
And then you say, I like the PowerPoints, right?
And now I can say, I like the PowerPoint. Thank you. Probably, I don't know if I thank you. I might have not started doing that, but I might go that far thanks to you. I like PowerPoint. So it's just a little example, but what it shows to me is that that little truth started to make my mind dance, because I became excited and I started chasing after all the I don't likes, and realized that when I don't like something, I'm actually invoking it even more. And so I suddenly found, I found the key to reduce what I don't like. Stop thinking you don't like it. Think differently. At least the mantra I've always used, which for me works fine, is it's interesting. So next time somebody says, I'm going to show you a PowerPoint, you can say, well, that's interesting. So it doesn't say I don't like it. So you might find another thought, PowerPoint shouldn't be that bad. Could be nice. Maybe there's something I'm going to learn. One day I realized a thought for me was very helpful was, what can I do to help? Instead of reacting, somebody does something, it's always, what can I do to help? It's a very positive approach. So these are just little examples to show that a form of understanding, a form of truth, or a form of knowledge can literally start to make the mind dance. Once we learn, once we unlock something, and you realize, wow, that's good. One day I told someone something, and they said, "Oh, Eric, you're really sensitive to injustice." So it was just thrown to me like this: you're very sensitive to injustice. And it suddenly was like somebody showing a mirror to a part of me that I've never seen before. It's I don't know, for me, I have very little mirror in my bathroom, but sometimes I go to hotels and have mirrors everywhere. And suddenly you see the back of your neck and you're scared. And you say, this is me? I never saw the back of my neck. And you discover your back, because all these mirrors are everywhere. And you suddenly see a side of your body that you never saw before. I know I might sound crazy, but it's always surprising when you say, oh, I didn't know that it was like this. I had a little thing here. And so when she told me that, it was like seeing a part of me that I've never seen before. And I started noticing that was actually very, very true. And it helped me tremendously to be aware. It's like when I went to, when you have allergies, and then you go and they put this little test, and they tell you, well, you're allergic to this and that. It's bad news, but it's good news. At least you know what you're allergic to. And the moment you know what you're allergic to, then you become careful. You pay attention. Oh, careful, I know this will make me allergic. So this is truth, this is information, this is knowledge, this is understanding. And any form of little understanding, this is just like tiny, tiny examples, they start to unlock the mind, and the mind starts to move differently. And it gets excited. Oh, I like that thought, I'm going to practice it. So for us, making the mind dance is a lot about initially learning, about exposing ourselves to information, which is beautiful, which is inspiring, which is positive. And that information, which we call knowledge, will generate a form of dance in the mind. Now, how to make the mind dance beautifully, because you can dance badly and walk on the feet of everybody and bang in the walls and break everything around, so that's careful when you start dancing. And to dance beautifully, that's when we need the second ingredient, which is the values. The beauty of tolerance, the beauty of compassion, the beauty of patience, the beauty of sweetness, the beauty of kindness. And if you think of it, all these values, we call them values or sometimes virtues, those virtues or those values, what they bring is beauty of the soul. Truth or knowledge gives enlightenment. We call it you're an enlightened soul. If you have knowledge, you are enlightened. It means you see things clearly. If you have virtues, then you start to decorate yourself. So it's kind of a bonus. You can do without it, but then you become very dry. Oh, she's right, but she's really dry. And if you are enlightened and sweet, well, that's much better for everything around, no? If you're enlightened but bitter, well, people will say, you're right, but it hurts. But if you're right and sweet, they say, oh, you're right, and thank you. It goes well. See, you told me about, I like PowerPoint with a smile. But if you had told me, well, think of, I like this with force, I would say, okay. So sweetness, kindness, these are very beautiful virtues. And so what the knowledge is for is actually to allow me to access those values, those virtues, so they can become mine. My understanding is not to know why is somebody else wrong. My understanding is not to correct people. It's not to go out on the street and yell and say, you're all bad, be good. We don't do that. Understanding makes me feel, oh, there's something wrong in me. Let me change it. And what do I want to change it for? For a virtue, for a value. And so your dance companion becomes almost a virtue. So you dance the dance of peace. You dance the dance of love. You dance the dance of happiness. You dance the dance of compassion, generosity. And that kind of dance really is something that actually people will enjoy. And I enjoy, but people will enjoy. They say that if you are having a strong ego, you are like a cactus. And if you have virtues, you are like a flower. And normally people don't bring their nose close to a cactus. Have you ever tried that? To smell a cactus? Don't do that. It really is going to hurt. But the flower, it's beautiful that when people see a flower, they bring their nose into it. That means you trust the flower. And if you see a snake, are you going to put your nose close to it? No, you just don't smell the snake. So flowers, virtues are like flowers. And now when you dance, if you want to dance for a longer period of time, you need power, you need strength. Otherwise after 5 minutes, oh, my feet are hurting, oh, I don't know if I can dance. Oh, just dance 5 minutes, I'm stopping. And so sometimes people are virtuous, but only for a few minutes. And so they say, well, I've tolerated you for a few days, now it's enough. Oh, okay, so your tolerance was only good for 5 days. Like a yogurt, you buy yogurt and they say good until such a date. So your generosity is only up to a point. You're generous, but the day a person starts to disrespect you, you're not generous anymore. Oh, okay. So that was very limited generosity. Are you kind only if other people are kind to you? Are you going to be patient only if other people respect you? Or are you going to be patient no matter what? Or are you going to be respectful no matter what? So for a virtue and the mind to dance on the tune of the virtue, for that to remain for a long period of time, that's when we need strength, which we call power, sakash, energy, current. And that is gained not through understanding, not through the dance with the virtues, but it's gained only through yoga, connection with the source. I mean, that's the Raj Yoga recipe, right? If you go to, I don't know, next door, you'll get another recipe. If you go to the restaurant, they will give you definitely different recipes, Chinese food. But in this restaurant, the recipe is that strength, power, comes from connection, yoga with the Supreme. And we find that the highest form of connection is when the soul connects with the Supreme Soul, because that's the source. And so we do have what we call the power of yoga, which is a beautiful thing. And we say that that power of yoga can actually burn the impurity of the soul. And that's the main message that we want to put across, is that the power of yoga removes the negativity of the soul. So you can bring truth through a book, through a study. Oh, you get a little bit high, and then you feel inspired to be a nice person, to be kind. As, oh yeah, I'll be nice, because I understand this is good. Oh yeah, I'll be it. But then if you want that to stay, once the music stops, that's when we need power. And this dance is only actually allowing me to be in good mood, to put the effort required so I can connect in yoga. If you're not patient, if you're not kind, if you're not generous, if you're not really good in a way, it's very hard to stay connected. But the connection helps you to be good as well, so it goes both ways. So the real power of the soul is the power of yoga. And that's why we find that a yogi is a soul that connects with the Supreme. And that power is incredible. Imagine if you are in yoga and you just see the Supreme Being in front of you. And our connection with God is very simple. Yes, prayer is a way. Some people pray to God, and it's very beautiful. We like to be in silence and allow this energy to be there. One is through visualization. So we start, if I say, remember your grandmother, well, I'm sure you'll visualize her, no? If I want to say, okay, try to connect with your grandmother, talk to your grandmother. I mean, you say, which one? You have to choose, right? You have two? How many grandmothers do you have? Huh? But you must have had at some point, somewhere. So we have to connect with one of the other, right? You have to choose. And then you visualize her face, and then you connect, isn't it? So how do you connect with God? Well, it's not like it's invisible. I mean, God is, that's Raj Yoga recipe again, but this is what we use as a focus point, just a spark of light, just a source of light. And we define God as a soul, supreme soul. So as a soul, without a body, you don't see a face, you don't see a body, you just see the soul, the light. And what we do in yoga is we just look at that light and we tell that light, oh, you are such an ocean of beauty, you are incredible, you are powerful, you are the ocean of peace. I'm a soul, you're the supreme soul. How do you stay always peaceful? We can create dialogue, we can create communication, or we can just be silent. And just like when you are taking a sun bath, anyone has been ever going under the sun? No? Not much, huh? Some don't need that, but it's nice when in the springtime, when there's beautiful sun you don't like, to go out in a park and just lie down like this. You don't talk to the sun saying, oh, you are the sun, thank you for sharing your light. No, what do? You just go like this, and you just enjoy the warmth, the energy. Well, this is physical yoga with the sun. That what we do in meditation is spiritual yoga with the spiritual sun. And so when we connect with God, it's just a feeling of, okay, I'm just trying to invoke that energy of love. So when I meditate, I just sit and I see the point of light, and then I tune on one of the virtues that I want to become a power. And so if you had the dance of love and you see the virtue of love, when you sit in yoga, then you want the power of love. And that comes from the Supreme. because you just feel that that love from the Supreme is number one love. This is the best. There's no better love than that. Your grandmother can be wonderful, but she's like this, and God is like that. So I go for that one. And it's the beautiful love, which is pure love, spiritual love, divine love, godly love. And that's what we try to feel in yoga, in meditation. So that yoga becomes power, sakash. And it could be love, could be compassion. When I was thinking earlier about that little boy, was to feel, I cannot give power to the whole world and to even anyone else. But if I connect with the Supreme, then I get that power, that supreme energy, and that I can pass it on. It's not from me, it's from the Supreme. So if I want to warm up a place, I open the window and I let the light of the sun to come in. I can use a mirror and redirect the light, and that's what we do in yoga. Serving through the mind means putting the mirror of my mind under the sun and directing the light to somebody else. That's how we help others. We don't feel that I am really doing anything. I'm transmitting. Does it make sense, those three elements? And so the dance starts with music, the knowledge, the truth. It becomes beautiful with the virtues, the beauty of the soul. And then it becomes strong with the yoga, the power of the connection with the Supreme Soul. And we find that if those three ingredients are there, then there is regularity, then there's balance. If there's just a little bit of knowledge, we can create ego, because then we say, oh, I know. Okay, fine. Congratulations, But if you really know, you should become humble and feel that actually I didn't know, and probably there are many more things I don't know. So let's be humble about learning. A student should always respect the teacher, isn't it? So if I'm learning, I should be humble. So if there's only knowledge, it can become quite arrogant. If only I focus on values, they become good but very weak, in a sense that they don't last and they don't have substance. Oh, I love everyone, but it doesn't make sense. You don't understand. Love has to be understood. And if I only focus on power, it becomes very, struggle, efforts, heavy. Power works well with values. Values works well with knowledge. So the three are really necessary. So this is how we define the dance of the mind. That the mind should be dancing on the tune of truth, moving with the elegance of virtues, and keep running, keep doing it for a long time, for a whole life, because there's energy, power. That's why they show those advertising with these little batteries. I remember ages ago, these advertisings have been going for a long time. And you see this little rabbit usually playing the drum, still running, he's still doing it, like long time later, it's still doing it. And so the question is, 3 days after I have a good thought, am I still dancing? And if not, check your battery. You don't have there's no power. What do you think? Ready to dance? Simple, isn't it? Sounds good, no? Sounds simple. It's simple. Yeah, that means it's not necessarily easy, but it's simple. Right? It's simple, but not easy. So maybe let's try to see how we can dance together. Unless you want to share or ask something. You're all smiling, so you seem to be okay. So let's try to dance together then. So to begin with, we just sit comfortably. You can just feel that the body is comfortable. Always good to breathe. Because breathing just relaxes the body. And when we breathe, we remember how life is so wonderful. That air can go through the body, keeps the body alive. And in the same way as the air that goes through the body brings life to the body, there's the breathing of the mind, a natural flow of thoughts coming through the mind. And so I want that flow of thoughts to be pure, to be fresh. So if I create a current of thoughts, a flow of thoughts to come through the mind, if those thoughts are pure, positive, they create like a fresh air through the mind. So I want to create the most beautiful thoughts, like pure spiritual oxygen for the mind, so I can breathe. So I invoke thoughts of love, because love is so fresh. Love can clean the mind. Not a romantic love, but the love of the soul. A love based on understanding that every soul in the world is like my brother or my sister. That the whole world is like a big world family. And so my duty is just to give love to everyone. And if I look at myself, I also want to create a vibration of love for myself. Love is gentleness. Love is patience. Love is kindness. Love is forgiveness. So I let my mind become filled with love. But that love I feel within me, I want to make it even bigger, stronger. So I turn my attention to the Supreme, this beautiful being of light, the eternal, shining, pure light. Tiny like a star, but so beautiful, so powerful. And I visualize that being of light, the Supreme Being. I just see the rays of light come coming towards me. And I know that I'm in front of the ocean of love. This is the light of love. His vibration is pure love. And I feel his love for me to be the purest love. It's a love that doesn't see my weaknesses. It's a love that erases my weaknesses. It's a love that gives me strength. It's a love that allows me to move forward. So this is the ocean of love. This is the source of love. This is eternal love. And I feel there's so much strength in that love. And it fills my mind. It fills my heart. To such an extent that I can give that love to everyone. I can become a being of love. Spreading waves of love. So the third eye of my mind can see the point of love, the Supreme Being. And I can hold on to that love as if I was always holding a beautiful magical thread of love in my hand. So wherever I go, it's always there with me. Whoever I meet, I can only feel that love. This is the dance of love. So my mind can move with love, like the water in the current, just moving through everything, never stopping, just flowing with love. Do you feel good? Enjoy it? I feel we can stay like this for a long time. Do you feel how when we meditate like this, it concentrate a little bit somewhere here, or that something is percolating, or like coffee machine is on and just start to make noise, and you feel you're making spiritual coffee in there? Or is it just flat and nothing happens? It must be moving, no? Something. It's not that easy, but I think I enjoy myself when we meditate. I'm always aware of how I am when I start the meditation and how it is 5-10 minutes later. Sometimes nothing happens, but most of the time, if we pay attention to those thoughts, it starts to focus, and even the room becomes light and just feel free. We forget everything, we relax, and the mind just focuses on certain things. Like just being for 10 minutes thinking of love is beautiful. If we just keep the mind thinking of love like this for a few minutes, it's just nice. It's like taking a shower of love. Your mind feels cleaner afterwards. So now when we go back to home and meet those that are still waiting for us, so, yes, darling, I'm ready. What were you saying? Yeah, Om Shanti. So we keep the Om Shanti going. Anyway, thank you for being here, and look forward to seeing you maybe next week again. All right, Om Shanti.